Hi, this is the Chasing Points podcast, episode 164, I believe. I am still wearing my Eagles Super Bowl apparel. Harrison has none still. And I will continue to wear this until the Eagles lose. So just bear with me for all those that will be watching clips of this. I don't really care. I also have a football behind me that I am debating whether or not every time I talk to hold up in front of the camera. But again, this is episode 164 of the Chasing Points podcast. It's Harrison. Sam is not here today. Shout out to Sam. We are sending our love and protection to him right now. He needs it. NBA, we got talks.
Oh,
yes,
you made that sound very dire.
I did. That's true. Sam is alive and well.
That's fine. He's fine.
Alive
Sam's
and well.
good.
It's just we're sending protection to him.
Okay.
The NBA we will be talking about more of today. I know Harrison is very, very happy about that. We also will be talking about the combine just a little bit. Basically, by we, I mean me, because I know Harrison did not watch it. And then we'll be talking about some NBA or some NFL news. So let's just jump right into it, Harrison. The Lakers, the Warriors.
But you're not going to ask me how I'm doing.
No, I don't care how I'm doing. I don't care how I'm doing. I don't care. All right, you know what? I'll start on the right foot. Harrison, how are you doing today?
I'm great. I mean, I left my Eagles merch at home. I didn't want to rub it into people's faces anymore. When are you going to put it behind you?
I won't.
Okay.
I won't.
Okay.
I've had to deal for years now, since 2018, of hearing Giants and Cowboys fans tell me you only got one. Relax. You was lucky. It was a fluke. All this jazz. So now that the Eagles put belt to ass and beat the hell out of the Chiefs, and they can no longer talk and use all the weak-ass narratives that they've used, I'm going to stand on top of this hill until this hill crumbles or there's a sinkhole or whatever the case may be. Okay?
The team has moved on. They're back training.
That's fine.
I love to see
I'm in the gym training too. You check my Instagram out. I'm in the gym training right along with them. Okay? I'm ready for the season. Okay? Whatever.
All right. That's it.
Let's get to the Lakers. Let's get to Lakers Warriors. Since their trades, meaning the Warriors trading for Jimmy Butler and the Lakers trading for Luka Doncic, the teams have drastically turned around, Harrison. Especially the Lakers. The narrative was the Lakers have no defense. This trade, they lose more defense than Anthony Davis, and they have just laughed at everybody at this point in time, and are the best in the NBA since January 15th in defensive efficiency, which is and the number is 107.4. They are 15-4 in a 19-game span. The Lakers are the second in the West, and they're 10.5 games behind the Thunder. When I read that, I laughed. I was like, second team in the West, and they're 10.5 games behind the number one because the Thunder are that good. But they have a record of 38-21. And Luka, since coming to the Lakers, has averaged 22 points, 8.3 rebounds, 6.8 assists in the 8 games with the Lakers.
Hasn't even played quite well yet.
That's the thing. I'm watching clips currently in the background is the Lakers-Clippers game for me, and I've watched highlights of it already. And what Luka has done, the chemistry with him and LeBron is starting to get scary. Yeah. The fact that Luka is doing these full court passes to Bron cherry picking on a couple of them. I'll let him pass.
He's 40, man.
He's a legend, and he's 40 years old, so he can do what he's got to do. But just bombs. Luka's just passing it down there, and it's just making it look absolutely easy. And just even on regular passes, Bron cutting to the rack, as Harrison mentioned last week or even 2 weeks ago. I don't remember which episode it was, of Bron moving without the ball and basically Luka just being the quarterback of the offense. You can see how this team has changed, but I think the best part of the game is what I mentioned earlier, is the defense. Again, they are in the West with a bunch of trees, and they don't technically have a tree of their own outside of what's his name, Jackson Hayes, and that's
Correct.
Probably their tallest player on their team right now. most likely, I believe.
I think Alex Len might be
Okay, that
taller,
makes sense.
but like
They got him from the Suns, or not the Suns. He hasn't been in the Suns in a while.
I don't remember where he was
Yeah, I don't
last. He
either.
doesn't play.
I'm trying
He
to
doesn't
remember
play
where
much. He
he
doesn't play much.
was. But
But yeah, they
regardless,
do only play one. Like really, they only play one 7-footer at times. But yeah, keep going. Yeah, keep going.
so they are playing in the West, where there's a bunch of trees, and they are absolutely competing and winning. This run had them beating the Nuggets in there, the team that they have not been able to beat in years, and they have played extremely well team ball, with some unknown names to a casual viewer, but to a regular, some really good college names and whatnot. I'm just really enjoying watching the highlights. I haven't sat down and watched a full game, but I have watched a ton of highlights since this trade, and only thing I can say is kudos to them. I don't know how this is going to pan out by the end of the season as we move towards the playoffs. But right now, if they continue to play defense like this, they can do whatever they want to do. So,
yeah, I mean, since the break, they lost a bad one to Charlotte. That was like not good. But they've rattled off 6 in a row: Portland, Denver, Dallas, Minnesota, and the Clippers twice. And the Clippers aren't,
slouch.
a bad
Yeah.
team. Yeah, no, they're rolling. And like I said, Luka hasn't even played particularly well yet. They're gelling in the right places. JJ Redick has been phenomenal.
Coach of the year.
I think he has to be.
Yeah.
As of now, I mean, he's the way they've reinvented themselves defensively with Rui up front, moving Rui over to the 5. He played 5 in college, so I mean, it's not a natural position for him since he's like 6'8", but he knows how to move without the ball. He can shoot. They're spacing it well. And then you got just Jordan Vanderbilt out there too, probably playing the 4. I guess LeBron's the 4. Luka's. I mean, that's the good thing about them. They're positionless.
Essentially. Yep.
They're positionless, and that's what the Warriors did so well for so long. Obviously, much more prolific 3-point shooting team. But when you have Luka and LeBron orchestrating the offense, and kudos to LeBron again for reinventing himself again in his career.
Yeah.
He's been through so many iterations. There's been so many types of LeBron, and that's what makes him, the greatest of all time for me, is his versatility and his ability to just do whatever the team needs. And they're just starting to gel and get that chemistry, and they'll get it more and more. I'm just curious to see, how the Nuggets respond. I mean, I think the Nuggets are still going to be their number one threat,
Yeah.
although OKC is 10 games ahead. But I still think the Nuggets will be, and how the Nuggets adjust. The Nuggets have dominated the Lakers the last couple years, but they saw a new, different type of team for the first time, and they got beat. But what happens that second time and that third time?
Yeah.
But yeah, they're right there. I think they can compete with anyone in the West on any given night, especially when you have LeBron James and Luka Doncic. So
I think adjustments will definitely
scary.
be made, especially
For sure.
with a basketball mind like Jokic. Like, there's no way that he's just gonna. He doesn't like
Sure.
losing. Now you can
No.
tell that's very, very clear. I just think it's very interesting. I knew his team was in good hands with JJ when I heard about how he lost sleep the night before the Nuggets game just to game plan around that game. Like, this man did not sleep for a regular season game. For those that are saying that regular season games aren't important or they're not fun or whatnot, the head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers lost sleep just to game plan for the team that they could not beat. And it showed they were able to do that.
He's so intense.
He is, and he was psychotic in his preparation when he played, and it's translated extremely well over to coaching. He's a player's coach, clearly. I mean, he was when he was a media figure that was for the players too. Like, he's everything he's been is about the players and love for the game, and it exudes him. Honestly, it really, really does.
Yeah, he's a player's coach, but also like he'll yell at those guys too.
Yes.
Like, you don't normally see, a coach being that animated in the NBA on the sideline, but he'll get into them. Like, he'd be like, you got to go here. Like, you're not in the right spot. So at the same time of being a player's coach, he's also, an authoritarian. and it's working.
I
It's
still
working really, really well.
I still feel like it's so weird, like watching and seeing him coach on the sideline and knowing that him and Bron like just had a podcast and they were just like, all right, now I'm your coach.
Yeah.
Like, okay, cool,
Yeah, no,
whatever.
LeBron respects him, and
Mhm.
he respects his vision and how he goes about the game, and that's what it takes for a great player. Like, you have to see that the people around you are going to put in equal, if not more work. Like, no one puts in more work than LeBron around the game, but if anyone does, it's JJ Redick. So it's like they just mesh really well, and it's really vibing right now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it again, it helps when you have one of the better shooters in NBA history on there. So it's a guy that understands where you've been, has done it,
Hmm.
and put in the work. So I know sometimes that doesn't necessarily translate, but it seems to be in this case.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another guy that used to be a great 3-point shooter and became a head coach. His team, that'd be Steve Kerr, who was the head coach of the Warriors. And his
That's good.
Warriors
Good
are,
transition.
thank you, man. His Warriors are 7-1 since the Jimmy Butler trade. Steph has looked like old Steph. It has been averaging 30.4 points per game with a 51.4 field goal percentage since the trade. And then prior to is 22.7 points per game and 43.1 field goal percentage before the trade. The Warriors are seventh right now in the current standings. But the way that they've been playing, you couldn't tell if they were that or not. Um, just seeing, I know Draymond has come out and said that we're going to be in the finals and whatnot. Draymond be talking. He just be chatting
Cool.
most times. But I don't think they're going to get that far. I do believe they will be in the playoffs, but I mean, if they continue to play this way, anything's possible because Steph gets hot.
Yeah.
And once Steph gets hot,
Yeah.
it's hard to stop that. And then we also know what playoff Jimmy does too. So that could be, if a combination of that, if those meet in the middle and go off at the right time, they could have a good run. I just still don't think, in totality, I don't think anybody's messing with the Thunder. Period. I just really don't. But they are still a young team. They are still a young team, and we just talked about two of the greatest basketball players ever, and one of the basketball players that is considered to be one of the faces of the NBA, and Luka, and he was just in the finals last year. So the West is
I'll
always
tell
fun
you.
to watch. I wish the East was like that. I mean, it kind of
I
is this year, which
mean,
we'll
it
get to in a
kind of
second.
is,
Yeah, yeah.
which is, we talked last week about like the state of the NBA, but now that we're kind of getting towards the playoff time, I think a lot of people are seeing this is pretty wide open.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, OKC is 10 games ahead, 10 plus, and the Cavaliers are 10 plus, but there's teams in the East that can make considerable runs, including the Detroit Pistons, who lost 28 games in a row last year.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, the Knicks are looking a little shaky, and the Celtics are still good, but obviously they're way behind the Cavs and for the Eastern Conference race. But in the West, they got LeBron and Steph, and I don't bet, but I wouldn't bet against them, especially with the way things are constructed right now.
Yeah.
Um, and the best thing that happened for the Warriors in that Jimmy Butler trade is you just got a rejuvenated Steph. Like, they were kind of just going through the motions. They didn't really have like a direction. Like, they'd probably be a playing team or, 8 or 7 seed, or maybe they get up to 6. But now you have a roster where Steph believes they have a chance. And if Steph believes they have a chance, we've seen what he can do in any big game. And I would be very fearful of it.
What did he have the other night? Didn't he have like 50?
56.
Yeah. Okay.
56 of
Exactly.
them thing. Yeah.
Steph is just doing that during the regular season and just having fun.
Yeah.
Just wait until he really, truly, truly
Yeah.
locks in.
That was against an Orlando team who is
A good young team. Yeah.
exceptionally defensively. Offensively, they got some stuff to work out, but defensively, they're not a pushover. So for him to just dial something up and score 56, they lost their next game to the Sixers, but they got Charlotte up next. They got a road trip on the East. They got Charlotte, New York, and Brooklyn up next, and then Detroit, Portland. So Yeah, it's we're in the home stretch.
Still can't believe they
So
lost to the Sixers in that game.
I can't either.
Wild. Yeah, no,
Quentin
I'm just intrigued to see.
Quentin Grimes had like 40.
Yeah, well, it
Like,
was nice seeing the whole team go over and celebrate him
yeah,
after and whatnot, and pouring water on him like right in the middle of his interview. It was nice to see.
44 points.
Nuts.
Yeah.
I while since we're talking about that real quick and we're transitioning to the East, I know we had a conversation before, and I don't know if we had a conversation. It was on here or off of here, but moving off of Joel Embiid seems even better as the days go by. The process is over.
It's not looking good.
They trusted the process, and the process had some missteps, some big missteps, and it's not it. I know Paul George stopped podcasting so he can lock in. Real quick, because I'm very critical of this because I obviously don't play in the NBA. Why are you podcasting during the middle of the season?
I mean, that's the new thing now.
It is. It's. See, the thing is, I have for young.
I think it's
for Paul.
I mean, it's fine. It's fine when Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart do it, and then it's also fine when Paul George does it. But then when you start losing,
It's not fine.
it's
Yeah.
not fun.
I mean, fine. I'm so I see it both ways, right? Especially when you're losing, because the number one narrative is going to be, well, you're not locked in. You're worried about your podcast. For those that don't do a podcast, like there's a lot that goes into a podcast, but you can literally get that all done in one day, and it does not affect your training, does not affect your regular job or anything like that. And they also they pay a lot of people to do a lot of stuff, so they really just have to show up, know what the content is, and it's pretty much done for them. Whereas smaller podcasts like us, we have to do all the research. We don't have anybody. It's a mom and pop production, so it's even easier than you probably think that they are doing it. So there's that side of it. But for like people, I like it when the older guys are doing a podcast, like the guys that are like almost on their way out instead of like the younger guys. But it's like I enjoy it too to hear the perspective of the players that are in the now type situation. So I ride the roller coaster. It's fun watching where it goes. But back to the Joel Embiid thing, trade Joel Embiid. The first chance you can get, trade him. I don't know what his how enticing he is at this point in time. I'm sure some team will absolutely bite because of that. Maybe. But I don't know how much longer he's going to be in the league, Harrison. If I'm really honestly thinking about it, I mean, don't.
This is year 10 for him. And he's a 7-footer, and usually it doesn't work out too well after, that year 10 mark.
Yeah.
They're tied up with a lot of money in him, and I don't know where they go. I mean, maybe they get someone to bite and move off him and kind of start fresh with Maxey and McCain and Quentin Grimes now.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're in a rough spot. They went 1-10 in February before that, and for winning their first game in March against the Warriors. They have a lot of question marks, that's for sure. And this will definitely be a lost year for them. And I mean, you got to hope surgery goes well for Joel.
Yeah.
And run it back next year. But I really don't see any trade suitors in the summer unless someone gets really stupid.
Which is very possible. I mean, I feel like there's going to be a bunch of big names moved over the summer, like KD. I 100% believe that he's going to get moved because they can't move Bradley Beal, and they need to. That team just doesn't work. And I think we're starting to see what is it that changed the
changing the guard.
Not even the changing of the guard. I'm talking about the league
salary cap.
That and how we talked about there's not going to be really like big threes anymore, whatnot. I think we're starting to see like that actual effect come into play right now.
Definitely.
And you're seeing these younger teams be better, because they have better contracts. They're not the superstars yet, and once they get to that level, people will start to branch off and then go from there. But I do like the fact that the NBA is even, especially when you see teams like the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are on a 10-game win streak right now. This is like their third, fourth win streak that we've talked about on here on this podcast. They continuously are just dominating the East at this point in time. They are number one in the East with a record of 50-10. Second is the Celtics, who are 43-18. At this point in time, Harrison, I mean, I think it's very easy to say that they are a clear competitor to the Celtics.
Absolutely.
And I think I think that series possibly goes 7 games. And I think that'd be one of the better series that we get to see. And if it comes to fruition, which I think it can and will. But I'm very, very intrigued because they stack up extremely well against the Celtics.
They played 4 times. They played the 4 times this year already. They don't play again, and they're 2-2. So,
yeah.
I mean,
It can go
I
either way.
hope we get that.
Yeah.
I hope we get that
Yeah.
series. I think that'd be a great one.
I would look forward to that.
But yeah, like you said, like these teams are built on youth, athleticism, just chemistry, camaraderie. Those are the teams that are succeeding right now in the middle of the West, top of the East. You know, the Cavaliers, the Rockets, the Grizzlies. The East a little older. The Pacers, I guess you could put in there. They're still kind of just like there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they're 5th right now. But they're just there. And then the Pistons, like just kind of out of nowhere, like they all took a leap very quickly, especially Cade Cunningham.
But say shout out to him.
Yeah, there's just a lot of parity all throughout that middle, and a lot of teams that are built very similarly. And like you said, like that, the big 3 thing is definitely gone by the wayside. I mean, when you think about it, like looking back, you know, there's only a couple teams that can even put together like that big 3, or a couple players that can match up and do that well. But now you're seeing just kind of just an overarching theme with youth and athleticism, long wings. And even the Mavericks last year, you know, when they brought on Clay and lost some of their wing size, I was like, this is not the direction the NBA is going. You're going in the other direction. So that's why I was concerned with that trade, and still am, because this is how you build a competitive championship winning team in this new age of the NBA. Like, just size, length, and mobility all across the board.
I think it talks back to our conversation about how talented the NBA is currently.
100%.
And to your point of how wide open this is, teams that this is why I love sports so much, is there's new cycles that happen. Teams that were not the relevant team are the relevant team, right? Teams that were essentially, in terms of soccer, were essentially relegated to other leagues and whatnot, are now the top tier teams, right? The Cavs weren't anything without LeBron, and now they are one of the best teams in the league without a LeBron, with Donovan Mitchell leading the way for them. The Celtics, obviously, they're a storied franchise. They're always good. But then you have OKC. OKC was essentially nothing without KD, Russ, and James Harden. And now look where they're at. They built this young, really, really good team. And that you've seen them even excel on the national or the world scale and playing in the Olympics and whatnot. I think it's just really, really fun to see all these good young players around. And it makes me feel like the 90s, and the fact that there was so many players that I liked from so many different teams. Even though I'm still a fan of one team, it was just like, oh, I like this guy over here because he plays this way, and I like this guy. And it gives me that feeling, that nostalgic feeling about basketball again.
It's funny because, like, again, last week we talked state of the NBA, but it's like, what is really good for the league? I mean, obviously we appreciate what's going on right now, like parity across the board. But when the league is really, really popular, there is a dominant team or, you know, dominant figures. I mean, you know, with the Bulls, and then with LeBron and the Cavs and Curry and the Warriors. Like those were 3 teams that you would tune into every single night to see if they got beat.
True.
When now it's really just spread across the board. Like you could tune in any night and see Timberwolves Rockets, and it's going to be an awesome game.
Yeah.
Does that attract the casual fan where it's like, all right, I have my rooting interest and the team is good, but I know they can get beat on any night instead of having like a dominant force. So interesting space we're in.
It is, but I'm here for it now.
I appreciate it. I like it.
I'm locked in now. I mean, it's baseball, basketball season for me now. I'm locked in, and so I will be
happy to have you back.
Thank you. I mean, every Saturday morning it's Premier League for me still. So I'm locked in every Saturday morning. So I got sports. The old ladies it's not happy when I watch too much sports, but that's essentially my life. I like sports too much, and she watches reality TV and I watch sports. So even trade off.
Liverpool, top of the table.
Well,
Arsenal's doesn't have I don't know. They got 13 points off.
I don't want to talk about Man U. Man U is just don't want to talk about Man U.
That's good. We don't have to talk about that.
Please don't. Good Lord, don't.
Sorry.
We'll talk about the playoff picture of the NBA next week. We got also March Madness coming up too, so we'll have a preview for that next week. So some more basketball to come for sure. As I mentioned at the top, NFL Combine, Harrison didn't watch. I did, and there's some people that stood out to me. Again, I understand it's them just doing drills. Just for anybody that is not aware of what the combine is just them doing organized drills to show off their skills. But I like watching for certain people and seeing how their draft stock raises or lowers. And I also find it very comical to me, and I always have, is that this one thing can raise you or drop you, even though you perform great on the field. That's what happened to Will Howard from Ohio State. They are saying that he's had one of the worst combine performances, period. And what's funny about that is this young man just won a national championship and balled his ass out. And then Shador even defended him and was just like, this guy just won a natty. What are we talking about here? Like, I don't get it. Like, it translates if he plays what happens on practice. Yes, with your team is different, but you're out here throwing to guys that you've never even thrown to before and have no idea how they run. So I'm sure it's not going to look pretty. With that said, I had a couple standouts for me. And one that I want to walk back and I'll get to at the end. So one, his name is Will Campbell. He's a offensive lineman from LSU. He is 6'6", 319 pounds. He ran a 4.98 in the 40-yard dash. I will say this to you again. He is 6'6", 319 pounds, and he ran a 4.98. That is faster than a lot of people that you know. And he is also bigger than a lot of people that you know. So just imagine him running on the field towards a guy that is about 5'10", 190 pounds, running that fast. And then you wonder why these guys get flipped and thrown all over the field is because you got guys like that running. He also had a 32-inch vert and a 9-foot, 5-inch broad jump. Needless to say, I would not want to see this gentleman in a back alley, period, because he would ruin you.
Yeah, that's athletic.
That's very athletic, and I could see that's a pick that I could see the Eagles doing because they find very athletic offensive linemen. But he is going to be highly sought after for offensive line, and I would not be surprised if he goes in the top 10 to a team that absolutely needs an offensive lineman. He is an absolute monster. Now I'm going to get to, now I may murder his last name, and I will apologize in advance, is Nick Imawari from South Carolina, safety. This guy ran a 4.38 in the 40. He had a 43-inch vert and a 11-foot, 6-inch broad jump. He is 6'3" and 220 pounds. He is easily the top prospect for safety, and I 100% see this young man going very, very, very early. Harrison, I highly recommend you just see how fluid he moves. They do a drill that they use the ball to make you move back and forth and all that, and how he rotates his hips and gets out of the break is absolutely ridiculous. And to be that tall, definitely, I highly recommend anybody checking out his tape. While you're doing that and checking out his tape, I definitely suggest you check out Jackson Dart. Now, last week on here,
that's who I was going to mention.
I talked about this young man.
I'm in on the Jackson
I
Dart.
am on it too. I was like, I heard all the hype about him, didn't know too much, and I fell for the hype train. I can openly admit when I am wrong. I took the time to go back and look at his stats and also see what he did in the combine. In the combine, he absolutely tore it up. And now he's considered to be a sleeper in the first round. I think this young man is going to absolutely be talented. This year at Ole Miss, he had 4,279 passing yards, 29 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. He had a 69.3% completion rate, and then he had a QBR of 86.3, which was 4th in the nation. So this young man is accurate as hell and is one of the best quarterbacks per his QBR in the nation. He had 495 rushing yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. He set some career records while he was at Ole Miss. A total yards with 12,115 yards. Passing yards, he had 10,617. And then rushing yards, he had 1,498 rushing yards. That's for a QB, to be very clear. This young man seems to get it, and he continuously is getting better and better. And I watched the ball jump out of his hand during the combine, and I watched his highlights, and it just floats. And it is a pretty ball that he throws. He's very accurate, and even under pressure, he seems to know what he's doing. So I'm intrigued to see how this pans out for him and where he lands, because I think if he's behind a veteran, as I've talked about on here many times, if he's behind a veteran for at least a year or even 2, he's going to be a really, really good quarterback. If he's thrown right into it, the growing pains may turn him upside down, or he could have a Jaden Daniels, CJ Stroud type season. Very possible. So,
yeah, I saw his highlights of combine highlights. He obviously only really showed the good stuff for the most part, but yeah, impressive ball. And yeah, I liked him at Ole Miss. I mean, he was at USC as a freshman.
Mm-hmm.
I was like lukewarm on him. He was fine, played okay, but he's done well at Ole Miss, and he's got prototypical size, a little undersized, 6'2", but I'm with it. I'm on the Jackson Dart train.
I am too.
I'm curious to see where he ends up, because, like you said, that will definitely play a part in his development, in my opinion, as is yours as well. So
I want to see where he's projected to go, because I have an idea, and my fellow Eagles fans are probably going to hate me for saying this, because I'm going to talk about the rival, where his projection is supposed to be. So he's projected to go, they say, the top half of the first round.
Yeah, I could see that.
Okay, so the Giants have been very interesting. The Jets have been very interesting. I can see him going to one of those 2 teams, depending on what they do. But if he drops for some reason, the Giants have the 3rd pick, so they can get Travis Hunter, depending where he goes. Because I feel like it's going to be Cam Ward or Abdul Carter, 1 or 2, and then 3 is probably going to be Travis Hunter or Shador. If they choose not to get a quarterback, the Giants have the 1st pick in the 2nd round. So that means that any quarterback, and this is a deep quarterback draft. Some people will say that it's kind of weak. But if he drops and somehow drops to the 2nd round, which we've seen some players do worse, the Giants could get their guy in the 2nd pick. Now, that's a huge risk. I wouldn't do it when you have Shador sitting there and whatnot, or you can just get him with the 3rd pick. But the Giants aren't great at making decisions. So we'll see where this goes.
I think he goes top 10. I could see Vegas at 6, Jets at 7, or the Saints at 9 taking him.
Same.
I think one of those three will take him in the top 10.
If he goes to the Saints with Kellen Moore,
yeah, it's be a good spot.
That'd be a great spot. Jets.
Jets.
With
I wouldn't
AG,
that either.
AG. I think that'd be great for him too. Very intrigued to see where it goes. So I'll keep my eye out for that for sure. I'm definitely intrigued by that. But if you go check the highlights on YouTube, they have like the condensed highlights, and you can see certain things and whatever you want to see. But I definitely highly recommend checking out if you're intrigued by who your team potentially could get. And NFL news, while we're still here, Jimmy Johnson retires from Fox Sports. He was with Fox Sports for 31 years. 31 years.
Whoa.
He's also the guy that coined the phrase, "How about them Cowboys?" which I didn't know until today. But he is the creator of that. And this was after they beat the Niners on the way to Super Bowl. But yeah, shout out to Jimmy Johnson, he's a legend. It's the last time you Cowboys fans that were actually alive then saw a Super Bowl or even a championship, a conference championship.
You're so mean.
It's the truth, and it's the truth. I'm gonna kick them while they're down because they've talked hella shit. Anyway, but yeah, shout outs to them. Deebo Samuel was traded to the Commanders for a 5th round pick. Deebo, when healthy, is a guy that you can move around anywhere on the field. But the problem is he's never really healthy. And the fact that they traded him for a 5th round pick says the value that he essentially holds at this point in time. And I also feel like I think he's due for a contract extension, if I remember correctly, as well. So it was another, hey, we already paid Brandon Ayuk. We got what's his name? Purcell, the rookie.
Yeah.
They have obviously CMC, and they're going to have to pay Brock Purdy. So there was going to be a cap casualty anyway, and I think that's kind of what it was. So they got something back for them, and I think that was kind of like teams knew they were just going to get rid of Deebo because they also want to sign Trent Williams again, and that's going to be a lot of money as well too. So for an extension, so he goes to the Commanders to help Jaden Daniels. Per you Commanders fans, Jaden Daniels doesn't need any help because he's not a product of the team, apparently. So Jaden gets another receiver, and that's going to free up Scary Terry, and that should be scary for teams around the league. So Harrison, what is your thought of Deebo going to the Commanders?
I mean, 29 years old, definitely, on the downturn of his career. I think 5th round pick is fair for him at this point. I like the move for the Commanders. Like, you just get another piece in there to help Jaden when healthy. When healthy, he's multifaceted. You can move him around all over the place, and I think it's a good pickup for them.
Yeah.
It's to be able to get Deebo Samuel, he's still prolific when he's playing, is huge. If he has I don't love when wide receivers come in expecting the Deebo mentality of some wide receivers, and sometimes he has had that. I don't really love that with a young quarterback, but Jaden has shown that he's kind of, and he has the franchise's backing as he is the man and he is the future. So I don't see any kind of, I guess there could be Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen potential there, where it's like, all right, but I don't know. I think Deebo's at a different stage of his career than Stephon Diggs was, and I don't think Deebo's as much of a diva as Diggs is.
I don't think there's many out there that are right now, currently in NFL.
Correct. So yeah, I like it. I think it'll only help them, and we'll see what else they build from there. Who else they sign? They're pretty solid at wide receiver. I mean, you got Scary Terry, Deebo, Noah Brown. Yeah, I like it for him.
Yeah, I think it definitely helps. Like I said, it's going to help Scary Terry. Zach Ertz is still, even though he's on a decline, he had a absolute solid year. And what do they always say? A rookie quarterback, or even just a quarterback's best friend, is a tight end. And it always bails you out. And to have a veteran guy that has won a Super Bowl to be right over and wander over the middle of the field to give you and bail you out and know where to go, it helps out for sure. So we'll see where it goes.
interested in what more moves they make. Like they can't sit still. Like they have a really good
They
window
have a
here
lot of
of
cap.
opportunity. A lot of cap, a good window of opportunity with a quarterback on a rookie deal. Like now is the time to do all this stuff, and put yourself in the conversation every year for the NFC Championship and being in that game with a chance to get to the Super Bowl. So
Well, they're in talks. The rumor is they're one of the top teams looking to try to get Myles Garrett. It's pretty high right now at this point in time. It seems to be the Eagles, the Commanders. I think who was the other team that was up there? They said Cowboys, but I don't think anybody ever believes that. And I forgot who the other team was, but there's like 4 teams that are really serious about trying to
Myles
get
Garrett.
him. The Rams that's the other team, the Rams, to try to go out and get him and dump all things. There's like some weird trade scenarios out there for that, but intrigued to see where that goes because I feel like that's the number one. Now that Matthew Stafford has signed an extension, which I didn't put on here, we can stop talking about Matthew Stafford going somewhere else. He's staying with the Rams as he signed an extension with them, but they're potentially losing Cooper Kupp, who could be going to Dallas. That should be very interesting if that happens. T. Higgins, 2 years in a row, franchise tagged. This time for $26.2 million. This is the last time the Bengals can franchise tag Higgins, and time is running out. What are you gonna do? I know this is. I know they want to try to figure out what they can do with him, but the priority is very, very clear. Jamar Chase. Pay Jamar Chase whatever he wants, and he's going to command a lot of money because he wants to be higher than Justin Jefferson, his boy. So he's going to get a lot of money, and they're not going to be able to pay both of them at the same time. And also, you have Joe Burrow there too, who's going to get paid crazy money too. Eventually, I think he already signed extension, or he's due soon. I don't remember exactly what it is, but I know T. Higgins is probably not happy because there's no security with this. Harrison and I were talking about this prior to being franchise tagged. I mean, next year you're not guaranteed anything if you get hurt. There's no obviously contract, which gives you the insurance and all that. So he's kind of just out here. Essentially, it's a betting on yourself, but via the team. You know what I mean? Like, prove to us that you are, even though he has absolutely balled out and has helped Jamar Chase become free because you have to worry about T. Higgins too. I hope he gets a contract. I thought for sure this offseason that he potentially would have got a contract or they would have tried to trade him for a lot because he holds a lot of value at this point in time. I just hope he has a great season and can stay healthy. That's all I hope for because he's phenomenal in the field.
Yeah, I think I was asking before, like I still don't quite understand franchise tagging and the ramifications for each party, but yeah, I mean he's a great wide receiver. I'm going to command a lot of money, and the Bengals saw that, and this is their get out of jail free card again.
Yeah, yeah. Pay him or let him go, please.
Yeah, keep him another year. I mean, from their standpoint.
Well, if they win, if they win, he's definitely going to be gone. He's like, all right, well, I got this now. I can get even more.
Can't afford him. Can't afford him at that point.
So hopefully, in their mind, if you're smart, Bengals, you try to get a deal done with him ASAP. Obviously, I know you're going to try to pay Jamar first, but try to get a deal done with him ASAP so you don't have to worry about that. But you're going to have to worry about that.
I mean, I from a Bengals standpoint, I think you can only pay one of them, and you can obviously hold on to T as long as you can, but you can really only pay one. And at the end of the day, he's probably going to not be a Bengal the year after next.
Let's see what the Bengals salary cap is. Bengals salary cap.
They have so many other needs.
They do. They definitely do. Their cap. They have $43 million in cap space right now.
Yeah, they have a lot of needs.
Yeah,
you got a lot of holes.
Yeah,
I mean you can't.
Like, you mean your offensive line that can't protect Joe Burrow?
Yeah,
the guy that you probably should want to protect.
Yeah.
So he has all the time in the world. I actually was talking about that with a friend of the show, Brenden, and I was talking about the Giants obviously need a quarterback, but I said this is not going to matter if they don't build up their offensive line. I 100% believe that Eli Manning had probably 2 to 3 more years left if he would have had protection. When you have protection and you have a guy like that, pretty much any quarterback in the NFL, if you have protection, you have a long amount of time, you can carve up anybody, but you need an offensive line. And the Giants haven't prioritized that. Seemingly the Bengals haven't either, and the Chiefs somewhat do every once in a while. I'm sure they will this offseason.
The Eagles did.
They sure did. they sure did. They did that on both sides. So yeah,
it's not a hard game.
It's not. Find your guys, get offensive linemen, and go from there. I mean, but the Eagles do. To be fair, this is not too no horn. If you know and you watch football, the Eagles do have considerably the best offensive line coach in the league, and he will absolutely be a Hall of Famer when his time is done. So, I mean, I'm sure that helps for sure.
Just simply put, invest in your O-line.
Yes, invest in the trenches, as they would say.
Yeah.
Harrison, do you have anything to say before we get out of here?
No. Okay. I think we covered everything in March.
Okay, I do. Luis Heel, please heal quickly. See what I did? He's out for 6 weeks to start with a lat strain. Not great. Love that. And with that said, this has been another episode of the Chasing Points podcast. We thank you for listening. Listen to us on all major DSPs, even the little ones. I'm sure they're there as well, too. Share it with your family, your friends, your uncles, your aunts, your coworkers, whoever. We appreciate you guys for listening, and we'll be back next week. Peace.
Go Birds.